Ghostbusters. I think a movie that everybody remembers and just has such amazing nostalgic feelings about. I mean, the theme song alone sticks with everybody.
There's something strange.
That's all I'm going to play, I don't want to get copyrighted. But you know it, and now it'll be stuck in your head all day, so you're welcome. The other day I was thinking of all these amazing movies and gems that I watched from back in the day. Ghostbusters immediately came into my head, and then I remembered it has a sequel. So I was starting to wonder why I didn't remember it. It wasn't an immediate thought either, like I had to remind myself there was a second movie, and I'm sure I'm not alone out there. And just wanted to look back, rewatch it, and understand why the sequel did not live up to the first movie. Because the first one came out, it was huge, so the second one surely didn't have to do too much to also cash in and be iconic. Let's find out. So before I start looking at the second movie, let's just touch briefly on the first movie and then coast ourselves in nicely. I don't need to go through Ghostbusters, I'm sure if you're watching this you are more than familiar with it. But let's just run through it anyway. It was a huge hit, this movie. Didn't realise it until I was making this video, that in 1984 it was the second top grossing movie of the year. Some of you may not have been around in 84 or remember the movies then. Let me just give you a few and you'll really appreciate where this movie came in. It only lost to Beverly Hills Cop. And when I say lost to it, I'm talking about like $5 million. It came in at $229 million, Beverly Hills, 234 million, so it's fucking close. Third place came in with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and that was significantly less at 179 million. I say significantly less, and the scheme of these figures significant to my life. Those few million would change everything. And just to rhyme off a few other names that came out that year just under Temple of Doom, we're talking Gremlins, Karate Kid, Police Academy, movies like that. You know, the ones that are huge cult classics. It's a big year for cinema. So Ghostbusters coming in number 2 is a big deal. The movie ran on a budget of I think around 25 million and managed to times that by 10. So fuck me, this film took off. So when it comes to writing the second movie, what do they need to do different? They've got to build on the story. What is the story here? Our three main Ghostbusters, they are working their full-time jobs, and on the side, they're dabbling in the supernatural. You know, they want to make this a bit of a career, they want to push further into it. You've got Venkman, Stantz, and Spengler, not Spenkler. Fuck me, it's like a tongue twister trying to say those three names fast. That's not the first take. At the beginning, they're a bit of a laughing stock, nobody really believes them, so they need to prove themselves and make a name for themselves. Their heart is what carries this movie. Their belief in what is real and doing right by New York, whereas the people don't believe in them. It is like a real underdog story for sure. So they start small, they get fired from their jobs, they then pursue ghostbusting full time, they start moving slightly up the ranks, they get their advert on the TV, people start believing in them, shit goes down, the mayor's not happy with them, and strips them of their ability to do what they want to do. Shit gets even worse for them. You've got Sigourney Weaver playing a damsel in distress who needs help and already has stolen Venkman's heart. So the mayor signs off on them, go back into the ghostbusting profession, and they come round to save the day. During this journey, Winston comes in and he starts making a name for himself kind of halfway through the movie. It is a great time all round. I rewatched it as well as the second one just to kind of compare. Fuck me, I had a good time with it all over again. Whilst the movie isn't devoid of all criticism, I do appreciate. Like, I felt like Venkman took too much screen time. Don't get me wrong, Bill Murray is hilarious and all of his lines were fantastic. I had a great time watching them.
Tell you what, I'll take Miss Barrett back to her apartment and check her out. I'll go check out Miss Barrett's apartment. Okay?
But he does take away from the other characters just a little bit too much in my opinion. You know, he has such a strong personality compared to the other three, whereas I think they should have been a bit more equal. But that's my take. Now move on to the second one.
The Ghostbusters are at it again.
So the second one is set 5 years later, which is convenient. It came out 5 years later. And the plot to this one, let me fill you in. So the Ghostbusters, they start off pretty small. Not many people are believing in them. We really, to begin with, just have the 3 Ghostbusters. And they're trying to make a name for themselves. They start getting their advert back on the television. And people are talking about them. They're calling them in for jobs. Shit goes wrong. And then they get the mayor taking their license off them. Shit gets even worse, and then they get asked to go and help the city, and they do that. Sigourney Weaver as Dana's back, and she's a mum now, but also just a, you know, a damsel in distress character. Is this, wait a minute. No, it's definitely Ghostbusters 2 I'm talking about. They They just fucking copied it, didn't they? They just copied the first movie. Okay, so immediately that already is a little bit negative here. They could have built on so much in this movie. Like, they had the opportunity and the groundwork set to build on it. Yet they didn't. They've retreaded the first. We've seen retreads in sequels before. Here, it doesn't quite make sense. Like, let me cast you back. Spoilers for the first Ghostbuster, but do you remember how that movie ended? I think it's safe to say anybody in New York, or possibly the world, there would be media coverage, is fully aware of what happened. Like, they believe in it, they believe in the supernatural, and ghosts are real.
The world does not recognize the existence of ghosts.
So when we cut to 5 years later, they're doing birthday parties to just get money by and survive. Why does nobody believe in you anymore, or believe in ghosts anymore? Surely, if anything, after the first movie, your phone should be ringing off the hook non-fucking stop.
We got one! We got one! We got one!
It just felt like a very weird setback, especially when you watch the movies like I did back to back. It's a little jarring, it feels like a massive step backwards only to move a few steps forward, do you know what I mean?
After all we did for this city.
Although at the birthday parties we do see Winston, let's be real, he's not really in the movie until about the halfway point, and even then it is very sparing.
Hey, enough, all right?
I understand in the first movie he came in halfway through because the job was there. See in the second movie, when he is an established Ghostbuster alongside the other three, why is he not in the movie enough? Well, let's look at just a little bit on the production side of things. So the first movie had 13 months to film this all, so it had plenty of time. It also was an original, so there wasn't any kind of pressure on it. Maybe there's studio pressure and things like that, but I mean pressure in the sense from the audience, the fans, things like that. It's not until typically there's a sequel that the studio pressure is even heavier because they want a return and they want to get something out. That's what happened here. Now, whilst this movie had a slightly higher budget than the first, it had less than half the time to film it. They were given 5 months to film this movie. Why did you take the time away from them? Like, give them the time, let's make a good film. Now, with that 5 months, test screenings did not go well. You can see critics did not enjoy this movie. So March of '89 was the first deadline for filming. That was their 5 months done, and then they could move on, get into editing, and get the movie out there. Given the feedback that they received, they had to then do a lot of reshooting between March and April of '89 to then get the movie out.
That ought to do it.
Which is a damn shame. I tried to look up the script for this movie and there were a lot of various scripts I found. I looked up one in particular, I think it was the latest one, and you can still see that there was differences in the scenes. So I'll be honest, I was going to do like a compare and contrast between script and movie. Fuck me, this movie went through a lot of drafts to be able to do that. You could do a video on its own, probably just comparing every script and nothing else. So see, with a bit of production out the way, let's then just talk about the characters. Winston I've touched on already. He, in the first movie, came in halfway through and then he was a main character. Second movie, he is in the first scene, but then again used very sparingly until he comes in about halfway through, actually gets a few lines of dialogue, and then he's in the movie after. It's a fucking real shame.
The original script, Winston was in the very beginning of the movie. By the time we got ready to shoot the movie, Winston came in halfway through the movie.
Sounds like a pretty open-minded guy, huh?
Gentlemen of the audience, I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds.
Now, Mr. Fianella, can you identify the substance in this jar marked Exhibit F?
You're next, Bubbles.
All right!
Ray.
Be gone!
Because Ernie Hudson has been on record saying he felt disappointed with like the reshoots and his scenes were getting cut, so he wasn't in the film enough in the first one.
They were all welcoming, and inclusive. The studio wasn't.
And then it fucking happens again in the sequel. I feel you. I'm a Winston fan. I was rooting for him more than the other three, to be perfectly honest. And hear me out. Whilst the three others are great, they're all scientists. They're all pushing it forward with their own expertise. Whereas Winston, I felt, brought a different angle to the dynamic.
I'm not an add-on.
He was your everyman looking for a job. So with that kind of grounded reality, that could have made for some fantastic dialogue. What we had was fantastic.
That's a big Twinkie.
You could have had Winston play the role of the audience as though he was in the Ghostbusters, if that makes sense. You know, calling things out, being the straight man, but also part of the team. Like, look at this for example. Looking up Winston's name in the script, just through a simple find and search, it's very few. You're not getting too much of him. Compare that to Venkman, who quite clearly takes up the most screen time in the film, and fuck me. Granted, Bill Murray's a bigger name, so you're going to use him more in your movie. I understand that aspect, but they're using him more and putting a spotlight on your character, and then they're just kind of pushing another to the sidelines, it feels. It's a real shame. Just still upset. I really want Winston. What more of Winston?
It's always the quiet ones.
I thought Venkman was fine. He just done the exact same thing yet again. You know, the first movie started off with him trying to do psychic readings and kind of fucking with people because he wanted to sleep with the girl. Bit sleazy, but we're getting his personality here. You know, he's a scientist, but he's also a bit daft. He even gets compared to a TV show host.
You're more like a game show host.
And what do we do in the second movie?
Hi, welcome back to World of the Psychic. I'm Peter Venkman.
He's a TV show host, or a game show host. It was one of the two. Correct me.
Game show host.
Okay. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. There's your answer. But even still, he's doing the same thing yet again. And again, he's just wanting to get with Dana, and that whole plot continues, where he's a part on the Ghostbusters, taking that seriously, but all in pursuit of Dana.
Now? Now? Dana Barrett! Ow!
My Dana Barrett?
As for Spengler and Stantz, I really don't think much changed between their characters. They were pretty much the same as they were in 1 and 2. It doesn't feel like they've developed in any way. Again, not that the other characters have.
Born 1505, died 1610.
105 years old. He hung in there, didn't he?
Didn't die of old age either. He was poisoned, stabbed, shot, hung, stretched, disemboweled, drawn and quartered.
But not even in any real capacity, because again, the spotlight's not on them enough to really show it.
The Ghostbusters are at it again.
Dana, on the other hand, we've got Sigourney Weaver back, and what does she do? Yep, she's damsel in distress again.
Hey!
However, slightly different. So Venkman and her were going to be a thing in the first movie, and it ended with quite a sweet note. They're now an item. Beautiful end.
Oh.
But then between the movies in that 5-year span, we learned that she married someone else, had a kid, separated, brings us into Ghostbusters 2, and now Venkman's chasing her all over again.
Well, we didn't part on very good terms, and then we sort of lost track of each other after I got married.
Why are you doing these things? You know that you have the queen of sci-fi there. She's not long off the heels of Alien. And she has given us, still to this day, one of the most well-rounded, fantastically strong and independent female lead. She balanced both being a badass and nurturing at the exact same time. You get her for Ghostbusters, and that's what you do with her.
That's a different look for you, isn't it?
She didn't need to be in this movie. Like, that could have been anybody else. And I love Sigourney Weaver. It didn't have to be her. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like seeing her, and she's great in it, but nothing specific about the character was Sigourney Weaver-ish. It's a real shame they didn't use her talents. And that's not even a criticism of just the sequel. It was the same in the first movie. She was just a love interest and looking for support. There was a little bit more to it where she started getting possessed, fair enough.
Zool, I'm the gatekeeper.
But for the most part, use Sigourney Weaver's talents, use her name as well. Like, people know her, they know what to expect from her, and then that's what you gave us.
When you started introducing me as the old ball and chain.
It's a bit shit. The biggest change in the movie though is probably Janine.
Janine, any calls?
No.
Any messages?
No.
Why don't you come over here and sit with me?
Okay.
Now when you look at the first movie and the second movie, and watch them back to back as I did, that one's going to stand out to you. You're probably Googling if it's the same person. It is. The reason it changed is within the 5 years of those two movies coming out, we got the animated show. And for the second movie, they wanted to make Janine more like the animated version of herself.
I decided that I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be something that I'm not.
In the movies, she just jumps wildly, and I don't get why. Well, I get why to make it like the animated show, as I just said, but it's very jarring.
What's happening? She's changing again! Into what? I don't know.
Like, you could have had one for the animated show and one for the movies. You know, you can still change her dialogue and her character, but they've given her a full rework. Moranis is of course back again, and he plays the same character. However, he's now just kind of getting with Janine.
So you want to play Boggle or Super Mario Brothers?
Which I don't get. I'll be honest, I'm calling a bit of bullshit on that. And no shame to Moranis, you do you, son. Like, go get it. But in the first movie, he was very awkward and purely just wanting Dana.
You want to come in for a mineral water?
Thankfully, he's over her, but now he seems like a man with the ladies. Still awkward, but he's got that confidence about him now. And it just came out of nowhere. Like, if the movie had started and he was in a relationship with Janine, that would have been more believable. Now let's talk villains for a minute. In the first movie, can you remember the villain? You can probably think one of two names. You've got Zuul or Gozer. Gozer's the big bad. Zuul was like the creature, the demonic dog thing. Well, one of the two. You've got the gatekeeper, you've got the keymaster, you've got this kind of lore all within the first movie, and you've got a clear villain, and one that kind of feeds through the movie. You've got Lewis gets possessed.
Vince Clortho, Keymaster of Gozer. Volga Sildroar, Lord of the Cebulia. Are you the gatekeeper?
Dana gets possessed.
Are you the Keymaster?
And they're trying to find each other and then come together for Gozer. It all works really well. In Ghostbusters 2, what's the name of the bad guy? Can you remember it? If you can, fair play to you. I am genuinely impressed. It was Vigo, or Vigo, one of the two.
This is Prince Vigo.
It was Big Evil painting. And kind of similar to the first movie, he doesn't have a clear angle. He just kind of is evil for the sake of evil and wants to take over. The movie came out in the 80s. You don't need to go much deeper than that, especially when it is a comedy.
He was a very powerful magician.
But the movie, I think, struggled between what the villain really was, because they have Vigo as the face of the villain, and well, he is the villain, but hear me out.
Bit of a sissy, isn't he?
But what the movie writing was, they wanted an angle where it was all about the negativity of New York City. You know, the movie played as a metaphor for people being negative and that creating more negativity, and that everyone should be a bit more positive.
Whatever this stuff is, it responds to human emotional states.
The film had a great idea, it had a nice angle to it and a very family-friendly touch. But that all, through the rewrites, through the production, just fell away. And what we got was the pink slime sludge thing that like reacted to negativity.
You mean this stuff actually feeds on bad vibes?
There was so much negativity in New York, it created more of it.
Slime! What? It's a river of slime!
And then gave Vigo the power to come back out.
Now is the season of evil.
See what I mean? It just seems a bit convoluted. It definitely feels like more people were writing this movie than necessary. You know, it had an angle on it, and then they just kept adding to it and changing things and making last-minute amendments.
What was will be.
It really deserved more Ghostbusters 2. It really fucking did.
That ought to do it.
If they had just allowed them more than 5 months to film, enough time to have a fully realised script as well, I think this film could have been fucking great and right up there with Ghostbusters. It had every possibility to build on the first and be better, but instead, through production hell, we seem to just get a retread of the first movie. Negative reviews when it first started airing must have meant that they were quickly behind the scenes doing reshoots, cutting large chunks out of the movie, a lot of Winston, still not over it, and it led to just simply almost like a diluted version of the first movie with a different villain.
The franchise rights alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams.
And very lastly, when it comes to the story, the dialogue, it had a very clear effort to be more family focused. The first one was very dark comedy. Not too dark, but definitely darker. It toyed with family movie, and it was more kind of adult family movie, if that makes sense.
Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Whereas the sequel played it safe. A lot of its jokes and humour felt very safe. It felt like they weren't pushing the boundary anymore. They weren't trying to be edgy or like very witty.
Oh, he's okay. Yes. He's sleeping.
Oh, but I would.
It's okay.
It just moved along, scene to scene, with just phoning in lines wherever they could. Seeing all the script rewrites is probably the reason why here. Like, this film could have been more. It was no shortage of money, considering what they'd done with the first movie for the second, so it's definitely down to the time that they were allotted. And the fact that there's 5 years genuinely between productions as well, why was it rushed? What was the rush for the movie? You could have given them another few months. Get it exactly right. I fully get Ghostbusters was huge, there was toys, there was the animated show, they needed a sequel out there.
The franchise rights alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams.
But start working on it sooner then. Do Do you know what I mean? Like, give them more time to do it. It wasn't until I sat down to do this video and started looking some things up, especially googling Ghostbusters 2, I realised that there's a sequel to the remakes also coming out this year. So with this movie getting the production it had and the reception it had, I can only wonder what Afterlife 2 is going to bring us. I have no fucking idea. I really hope it is given more love and care than this movie got. What we don't need is a retread of the story. We need to build on the story. Be in a world where people believe in ghosts and these are the men that can save it. What I would have loved to see in the second movie is bring Dana onto the team. Number one, you'd have a female Ghostbuster, and we fucking love female.
Let's go. Let's go. Oh. Did you want to? Sorry. I'll let you. Next time.
The power of penny compels you!
Okay, we don't love female Ghostbusters.
Women. Huh?
But having one addition at the time would have been great. Especially Sigourney Weaver. Again, off the heels of Alien, she's proven herself combat ready.
Get away from her, you bitch!
So throw a proton pack on her back. That was not the first time I tried to say that on camera. And get her out there taking down ghosts. You already know she would have looked fucking great in costume and also been equal if not better than the guys doing it. That is what would have made number 2 even better.
This is an incredible breakthrough.
But instead, we get this.
I don't think we should go out on a date, you know, and I can't leave Oscar in a strange place.
That was just some of my frustrations with Ghostbusters 2, and I totally get it as a movie. It's going to frustrate people for different reasons.
You mean this stuff actually feeds on bad vibes?
And on the flip of that, some people still love it. Some people have a great time with this movie, enjoy it just as much, if not more than the first one. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I mean, the one big difference really is Janos, and I swear, he's not my cup of tea.
No photographs, please. Slides are available in the gift shop. Eh?
I didn't enjoy him, but people do, so fair enough, you might enjoy him. He just very much annoyed me for most of the movie.
You're like the buzzing of flies to him.
But what did you make of Ghostbusters 2? Did you enjoy it the same? Let me know. And going a step further, what movies can you think of where its first one, the original IP, was huge and the sequel just could not live up to it for whatever reason? Let me know. This has been my stream of consciousness. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe. It really does let me know you enjoy what I do here. It pushes the channel out more. It helps in more ways than you know. And as always, thank you so much for watching.